You should really subscribe to Admiral Makron.
Yo. Fishing. Something so primitive, something so human, something that we've been doing for millennia. From all walks of life, from every continent to every country, every human being knows what fishing is. I know this because every single person watching this video knows what fishing is. And if you don't know what fishing is, how did you get on this video? The title of the video literally has video games and fishing. There's no way you found that by an algorithm chance. There's just not. Besides the point, fishing is something that we've been doing for so very, very long. Fishing, for the most part, was done subsistently. Whatever. It was done for survival. Something that people used to do for their main source of food. Whether they were on an island or on a coast or in the middle of nowhere with a lake or pond, people used to fish to live. Nowadays, there's three major categories of fishing. Commercial, which is big boats, lots of fish, big money. The money. And then there is subsistence, which, like I mentioned earlier, which is for survival. Some people still do that in the poorer countries and natives and stuff like that around the world. As well as the third and the more common one, the one that we're familiar with, recreational. The one where you do it for sport, for fun, to catch and release. The thing you do as a hobby. The thing that you do for, relaxation. And recreational is the main thing that I'm talking about today, because recreational fishing and subsistence fishing has leaked its way into pretty much every form of human media. Like most things that are innately human, eventually it touches everything we do, from music to art to movies to TV, and to, as the title suggests, video games. So the very first video game to ever actually feature fishing as a tangible thing that you could tell you were fishing was a game made by David Crane for the Atari 2600 called Fishing Derby, which featured two guys sitting at a dock fishing into a body of water below that was full of fish and a shark. The goal of the game was to gain 99 pounds of fish, which was tracked by two red markers on the top of the screen. The only obstacle in the game was the shark that would come by and try to eat your fish as you were trying to collect them. Now, fishing has touched video games in so many different ways, across every genre and category of games that you can think of, even places where you don't think it would make sense for fishing to be there. It's probably there. And so I decided to break down video games and fishing into three major categories. So the first major category is main focus. And what I mean by that is a game where most of what you're doing, around 80% to 100%, is fishing. It's games that are like fishing simulators, fishing tourney games, games that the only thing you do is fish. And I can understand why people like these games. I mean, I can understand why people like simulator games in general. And I've actually had a fair experience with these types of games. Back in the day when my family owned a Wii, and that was the primary console I played on, I used to play pretty much anything that I could get my hands on. And because we didn't spend a lot of money on the Wii, most of what I got was from the local library of my town that I lived in. And half of those games were fishing games. I don't know why everyone and their dead grandmother decided that they needed to make a game about fishing. But for the Wii, apparently that was the only thing people could come up with, because I played countless games for countless hours where you just fish freaking bass. Big mouth, big mouth, big ass, big boy, big bass. And pretty much that's most of my experience with those came from the Wii. I've not really played fishing sims since, because if I wanted to go fishing, I would be like, hey dad, you want to go fishing? You'd be like, sure son, let's go fishing. Or probably not like that. We'd probably plan it out like normal people. Whatever. But my family's always done fishing ever since I was a kid. That's part of the reason why I actually probably enjoyed those games, is because ever since I was like 5 or 6, I've fished. I mean, I can look right behind the camera right now and I can see a bunch of my dad's fishing poles. That's just what we do. My family likes to camp, and as a result, we like to fish. Now, the second major category is games where it's a primary objective, or it's like required to beat the game, but it's not the entire game. Games like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, where the game, it's there. It teaches you how to fish, and it's gonna pretty much make you fish, which isn't a bad thing, obviously, but like, it's a primary objective. I haven't had a lot of experience with games like this, because I've not played through Stardew Valley, I've not played Animal Crossing. I don't have a lot of experience with games like this, because typically if I'm playing a game that's solely focused on what I want, or it's something else. Most of the time I play games that aren't as laid back as those types of games. And the third and final category is minigame / tertiary objective. Games that pretty much the game won't tell you that there's fishing. You're kind of just supposed to figure it out and then figure out how to do it. Games like Terraria, Minecraft, and Red Dead Redemption 2. And they pretty much just it's there. You can do it if you want. You don't really have to. You don't even have to fish ever. But if you want to, you can. I don't know what this accent is. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. Oh yeah. So pretty much. Why am I talking about fishing in video games? Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Who cares? Who cares about throwing the rod at the reel in pixels in the pixels? Who cares? I do. First off. Second off, I thought it would be interesting and fun. Third off, it was kind of one of the first videos that I decided I wanted to make when I started getting all my new shit, my green screen, my camera, my lights. When I was getting all this figured out, this was one of the videos that I wanted to make. I don't know why. I felt like it. Okay. And another reason is because I want the developers out there to understand that fishing's cool. I want developers to understand that fishing is cool. I like it. It appears that a lot of other people like it because there is a lot of fish games that have fishing for no reason because it's fishing. Why wouldn't we have it? But I want a lot of developers to start experimenting with fishing, start innovating with fishing, start doing things with fishing, actually mess around with it. Terraria is a great example of a game that experimented with fishing. In Terraria, fishing is completely and totally optional. In fact, I hadn't even fished more than once for 500 to 700 hours on my Xbox 360. I barely even knew the mechanic existed. The only reason I even started fishing in Terraria is partly because of a video that I saw talking about it where he talked a lot about fishing in Terraria, and two, because of the 1.4 update where this is where they got the experimental part that I was talking about. In Terraria, fishing isn't just a side objective. It's a whole new means of obtaining items, enemies, bosses, all kinds of things. There's 2 bosses in the game that are completely dedicated to fishing. The only way to summon the boss is to fish. One of them is completely focused on RNG. The other one is you have to find a special bait, and then you can summon them. As well as there's tons of items, weapons, tools, and things that you can only get from fishing. And I want to see more games do that. I want to see more games experiment, toy around with the idea of having fishing be a source for something. A lot of RPGs and a lot of games have bosses be the source of items or other enemies. And I don't think that there's a single game that I can think of where there's fishing besides Terraria, where fishing is the only way to obtain certain things that are very special and like will actually provide bonuses to the game. Most games there's that are like tertiary, the tertiary category, you know what I'm saying? The thing that I described earlier, whatever. Most games that have that, there's no incentive to fish. It's merely a means to an end. It's another thing to do. Terraria changes that by giving you an incentive to fish. You want to fish because you want to see those bosses. You want to fight those bosses. Duke Fishron's a really, really hard boss. He's fun too. But he also has some of the best endgame items. He's really strong to beat. Really strong to beat. Yeah. Real smart, Caleb. He's hard to beat, and he provides strong weapons that'll make the rest of the game easier. Fishing also used to provide one of the most broken items in Terraria's history, the Reaver Shark, which was an item that was a pickaxe. And that pickaxe was better than any pickaxe you could get for probably 10 to 20 hours of progression. You could get it really early in the game and completely skip the first half of the game's progression entirely. I want to see more developers toy around with the idea of fishing as a tertiary objective with an incentive to fish. There should be a reason for people to go to fish. I'd love to see a game like Minecraft have special enchantment books that you can only obtain from fishing. I'd love to see special tools and stuff like that from Minecraft that you could only obtain through fishing. I'd love to see special events that could only happen in an open world RPG from fishing. If you've got fishing in your game or you're thinking about adding fishing, experiment with it. Do some fun stuff. It could go better or worse for you. I don't know. It's up to you. Your game might suck in the first place because a lot of games suck nowadays because people just play it safe and then they somehow fail at that. Whatever. Besides the point, I digress. But what I'm trying to say is fishing's cool. I like fishing. Apparently a lot of other people like fishing because a lot of people keep adding fishing. Make more fishing games. And that's pretty much it. I promise you there are better videos coming out. This is my first of this style. This is my second scripted video I've ever done. The first of which was awful. I hate the video that I made before. This part's not scripted though, weirdly enough. But pretty much the last video that I had made that was scripted was a little review of Valheim. And I freaking hated that video because I sound like a robot. I go, beep 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 beep. Oh yes, Valheim, very fun game, yes. And I'm like, I don't like the way that sounds, and so I'm trying to do something more natural with these videos, experimenting a bit because I don't know what I want exactly. But I promise you, there are higher quality videos coming, videos where I don't just stand here and talk. I'm just making this one to pass the time before I start really writing the scripts up and putting in the effort for other videos. I have like 3 or 4 more on backlog right now that I'm working on, that will probably come out within the next month or so. Well, not all 4, but like 2 of them probably. That'll have like things like gameplay, like different segments to it. Like there's a talking segment, the gameplay segment, another talking segment, and stuff like that. It'll jump around and be a lot higher quality, hopefully. And hopefully more entertaining. This video probably wasn't super interesting, but if you made it this far, thanks, whatever. You can subscribe to my channel. I'll probably make more shit like this in the future. And that's pretty much it.